basically we'll review, get refreshed on it. I'll talk about the workflow today, and if we run out of time, that's going to leak into the next class. All right, so if I go back up to the Premiere interface here, so this is going to be your best friend. Download this cheat sheet and print it out and have it next to you, because this is going to help you get familiar with where everything is. The most important thing is to make sure the settings are set up correctly. The first one's going to be about audio hardware and sound, because everybody has different machines that have different, might have multiple inputs and outputs on audio. And if it's not set up right, you may not hear what's going on in front of on your computer. So pretty easy, go into the settings here, go into preferences, go into audio hardware right here, and just make sure it's set to your default sound. So whether you just have speakers or whatever it is, and unfortunately everybody's machine is going to be a little bit different. If we were in campus, then you just follow this thing with our lab computers. But unfortunately, we can't do that right now. So you need to make sure that's all set up. And then you want to make sure auto save is turned on. So again, that's in Premiere Preferences, auto save right here. I want to turn it on and make sure it's going off every 15 minutes or so. So this is going to back it up automatically. And you can try this, and I'm not sure if it works, but with your student accounts, but you can tell Premiere to save a backup copy to the cloud, so that if something catastrophic happens and your hard drive crashes and craps out, you still have the project file saved in the cloud. It doesn't save all your video files, and so hopefully you have them backed up somewhere just in case, but your work that you do will be saved. And this is really important, this and also the whole structure of where to put everything, because remember also in this cheat sheet, there's this whole format of folders that you want to do. So do not save, try not to save to your system drive. Remember, I told everybody to get an external hard drive. You want to put it there. If you save it to your hard drive, well, it's gonna bog down your system a little bit. It's, your computer reads and writes constantly to the drive, so it may give you not as good performance. So put it in perspective. Whenever I'm editing always to an external hard drive. I never, unless I'm forced to, I never ever put all my files on my system drive. I have a separate drive for that. So you want to do the same thing, and you want to have this project file folder structure. So what this looks like is kind of be like this. So if I just move over up here for a second. So if you follow this along, you'll never have a problem losing stuff. And so it's pretty much like if you've been in one of my photo classes, I do the same thing here. It's really important, because if you have stuff spread all over your computer, like you have video files in one folder, you have YouTube files, audio that you downloaded somewhere else, and they're in your download folder, and you have some graphics on an SD drive somewhere, and you bring them all into Premiere. Premiere doesn't copy and all that stuff around. It's just reference to them. And if you then eject drives or delete stuff, and you open up Premiere again, and it tries to find these files, it's going to get lost and not find them. So the way around that is to do this workflow. So you're going to make a base folder like this. So I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to put my name on it. I'm going to call it Action Scene. So once I have that, that's this folder, this top folder right here. This is your project folder. You're going to put every single thing that you're going to use for this project in there. I'm going to double click it. And once I'm in there, I'm going to make 3 folders. I'm going to make one called Media. I'm going to make one called Project Files. And I'm going to make one called Masters. So I do the same thing over and over again for every project that I work on. And it's good to have repetition. It's good to have a pattern, because that means if I need to go back to a project file or an edit that I did, say 5 years ago, say 10 years ago, say whenever, if I have the same structure, I know exactly where everything is. I know where the masters, which are going to be the final products, rendered out video timelines, the media, this is where all the video, the audio and graphics that I shot, and the project files, this is where Premiere is going to be saved and all its stuff's going to be saved. I know exactly where they are. I'm not hunting around, and they're all in this folder right here. And then if I just drag and move this, I move this to drive or wherever I put it, all the assets go with it. If I have stuff spread all over my computer, I'm never going to get them organized. So do yourself a favor. I mean, this is what I do. This is what almost every professional editor does, has some type of organizational system, so it's not all over the place. Make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay. So once I make these three, then I'm going to go into media, and I'm going to make three more. I'm going to make one. I'm going to make something called camera files. Then I'm going to make audio files. And then I'm going to make one called graphics. Okay. So hopefully you did all this when you were shooting and backing up your stuff. And then if you made this whole structure already, then you're golden. You can start editing. But if you haven't, what you want to do is drag all your camera files over to here. Okay. So here, this folder that says private, this is files, video files that were generated by our big camera we use in school, the Panasonic EVA1. So like your guys' cameras, your still cameras are just going to make regular photo files or video files that are in one folder. Here, if I look at this when I open it up, look how much stuff's in there. There's a whole structure of video and stuff here. So I don't want to just drill down and find these files and grab them. I just want to take it all. So I'm just going to grab this whole file and I'm going to drag it and put it in here. I'm not going to do that right now because it's going to write to my drive, which I don't want to do. So I'm just going to kind of leave it here. Let's put it back in camera. There we go. So imagine I did put it in there. So that's going to go in there. Any audio files I want to use. So let's say you have a song that you want to put in and you downloaded it, you pulled it off of YouTube, ripped it off of YouTube, or wherever you got it from. Before you bring it into Premiere, before you bring anything into Premiere, any assets, any video files, audio file, graphic files, whatever, you're going to put it into this folder first. You're going to move it. So if I have audio files, well, I'm going to drag them and put them here in audio. All my camera files, I'm going to put here. Any Photoshop files, anything else I made in Photoshop file, I'm going to put it all in here first before I import it into Premiere. Because once I copy it to here, then when I import it into Premiere, remember Premiere does not copy it. It just references it, links to it. So if I say everything's in this master folder, which is this folder, then when Premiere goes to link to it, it's going to know it's all in this folder. And so no matter where I drag this folder around, and I open up Premiere, if I have it on this drive or I put it on an external drive, it doesn't matter. It will show up and Premiere will find it. So it's a very smart way to work. And I strongly recommend or suggest or imply or force or however that you guys do that. So some other things in here, here's a whole bunch of keyboard shortcuts. So I think I talked about it in the beginning, but in the video, but I'm just going to hit it one more time. The key to moving fast in any editing platform software is to know the keyboard shortcuts. The more you can mouse around, you can do everything with the mouse if you want, but you will be way faster if you learn a few simple commands. And so you don't have to know all these commands, but I would strongly suggest that you memorize these commands right here. JKL, right arrow, left arrow, up arrow, down arrow, home key, end key, zoom timeline. These things, if you learn these and work them on the keyboard, your speed will dramatically increase while you're editing. And the key to editing is getting editing faster. The faster you can edit, basically the more money you make, because if you're getting paid by the gig and it takes you 2 weeks, let's say they're going to pay you $1,500 to edit something and it takes 2 weeks to edit it, well, you just made $750 a week. But if you were able to edit that whole thing in 1 week, well, you just made $1,500 in 1 week. So the faster you can work, theoretically, the more money you can make. And also just to be efficient. So when you work in a professional post-production facility, they're going to have expectations of how long things take. Even though those probably, they may not stay on schedule, but that's what they're expecting. And that's what they're budgeting for. So these shortcuts will help. So let's go into Premiere for a second. So Premiere, you either have it down here in your dock if you're on Mac, or it'll be in the start button on Windows. You can do that, or you can type up here and go into search and just type Premiere. It'll come up, and I'm just going to hit return, and then it boots up. So first thing you'll get is the new project window. If you've already opened stuff already, it'll be in here. If you haven't, well, then you hit new project up here. I'm going to create a new project. So these are really important. Again, I'm going to cover them one more time because they were in the video, but I just want to make sure you guys understand this. This is the initial setup of where everything's going to go. So the first thing is the name. You want to name your project. So I'm going to call this action scene. You should name it whatever the working title of your film is. So I'm not going to hit return. So some people just type it, boom, hit return. And that's the first thing you do not want to do. What I want to do is now go to locations. So right now, I want to tell Premiere where to save it. If I just hit OK, it's going to save it to my system drive. It's going to save it in my documents folder. And that is not where I want it to be. I want it to be in this structure, this folder that I made. So I'm going to hit browse. And now I'm going to have my folder come up. So I know the folder I actually want this to go to is on my external drive. And I know it's in, I have a lot of stuff in here, but I know it's in ELAC stuff. Dylan O'Brien's action scene. And now you can see I've got project files. So I'm going to put it in there. And there's a bunch of stuff in here already because I've already worked in here. But that's where I want it to save. I'm telling it to save everything in that project files folder. And I'm going to hit choose. Now you can see up here, volumes, G-Spot, ELAC stuff, Dylan O'Brien's action scene, project files. That's where I want this to go. So all this stuff here, Mercury playback, you know, it should be there by default. You shouldn't have to change anything here. Scratch disks, everything should be same as project because all the temporary files it's going to write to this folder. Ingest settings, I'm going to leave all this off because I'm not ingesting anything. And this is a way you can have Premiere import stuff and write it. But I'm going to say for now, do not want to do this. It's much better to do it manually, like the way that I'm talking about, like moving and copying everything into the folder structure first. If you do it this way, it's just going to put it all in one folder and it's going to be a big mess. Don't ask me why they do that, but that's how Premiere functions. So we're not going to do that. So pretty much ingest, don't do anything. Don't do anything in Scratch. In general, pretty much you shouldn't do anything. It's mostly these two that are important. Then I'm going to hit OK. It says already it exists. Do I want to replace it? I'm going to hit cancel because I don't want to save it. So I'm going to rename this action scene test, just so I don't erase what I had. Okay, so once it's done, here's the interface. And now it can look a couple scary. And so just to quickly go over this real quick, the beauty about Adobe software is that they have it very, very customizable. You can change it however you want. Everything's based off of panels and tabs and drop-down menus. So the first thing you want to notice up top here is your workspaces. So I can access them up here, but they're all tabs right here. And if you look at this, this is basically designed for the workflow that you're going to do while you edit. So the first one's learning. I don't really use this one. This is all about, hey, how to learn Premiere, and here's a bunch of tutorials you can click on. And so if you want to get the overall on it, it's a great place to start if you want to kind of get to understand Premiere. The second one's going to be assembly. And notice how the interface changes. So the assembly is basically for importing footage, organizing it, renaming it, labeling it, and then doing your first rough string out. Once I get that going, then I'm going to go to the editing tab. The editing tab then rechanges everything and sets it up for editing. So I've got two monitors here, source and program. And these are going to allow me to look at what's on the timeline and then also see what each clip is. Once I'm done with that, I can go to color correction. And then if I want to do effect work, I can go to effect work here. If I want to do audio mixing, I can switch it over to audio mixing mode. And if I want to do graphics, well, hey, I got a mode here. I can do graphics like titling and all that stuff. What this whole workspace configuration, these tabs do, is basically reshape Premiere based on what you're doing. So I don't need to have everything open there. I just need to have what I'm doing based on what step of the stage of the edit process I'm in. So I'm going to start an assembly. So here I've got libraries. Well, we don't really care about that. I've got these tabs here. I've got auto clip mixer and I've got markers, all this stuff. Actually, that's kind of wrong. Let me reset this. There we go. Much better. So I could create, this is all interchangeable. So if and rescalable. So I wanted to rechange how stuff looks. I can move it around, move all these panels around. I can cut panels out, move them. I can grab a panel from here, bring it up to here. There's all sorts of stuff I can do to customize this for however way I want to work. And if I set up a customized workspace that works for me, well, I can go up here, workspaces, and I can hit save as a new workspace. And it'll save it, and then I can recall it whenever I want. Here, I'm going to reset this back to what it was, because I want it that way. So all of Adobe software behaves this way, where I can customize it, set it up for the way I want to work. And again, that's number 2 of how to speed up. If I set the interface up and get it dialed in for the way I want to work, well, it's going to make me faster. It's going to make me a better editor. I don't have to conform myself to how it works. So one thing I like a lot about Premiere that I don't like about Final Cut Pro is Final Cut Pro really doesn't allow you to customize anything. You either work Apple's way or the highway, and that's it. So it's still really good interface. It's still a really good workflow, but it's not as customizable as Premiere Pro is. So that there's, pluses and minuses to all of them. And this to me is a good plus to Premiere. Okay, so now that I've got, I'm in assembly because I want to start assembling and getting everything organized. So I'm going to import my footage. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here. I'm just going to go down to import, going to my hard drive, going to ELAC stuff, going to, and I can stretch these out too if I want to see it, action scene, going to media and camera files. So I'm just going to click on camera files, and let's say I had multiple cards in here. All I do is click this folder and then hit import. And you can see what it's going to do. And it's going to give me an error. It's going to say error message, file format not supported. And that's okay, because I basically grabbed the whole folder, and there's a bunch of things in there that aren't video files or audio files that it's not going to like. And so it's just telling me that, and that's okay. So when I hit okay, if I go down here, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. In fact, I'm going to go to assembly so we can really see it. You could see this is my bin. So this is the bin where everything gets stored into. And again, I talked about this in more detail in the recorded video. I'm just going to kind of highlight it quickly because I don't want to spend too much time. This is where all your assets are going to be, all your video files, audio files, graphics, whatever you're going to edit with is going to be in here. So here I've imported, it says camera files. And if I open this down, well, here's this one folder has a weird name. If I go in there, wow, there's all my video files. And if I click on them here, they show up here. And if I hit the play button here, I can play them.
All that stuff when we get to that point.